5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy, and welcome to the Scotland Genealogy Study Group. Our mentor and comrade at arms, and I'm saying that for militaristic reasons, is Claire Brisson-Banks. Most recently, she's teaching, doing long-distance teaching, um, in the area of genealogy, and prior to that she worked on the British Isles floor at the Family History Library in Salt Lake City. Welcome everybody. Claire, what are we going to talk about today?
Okay, we're going to talk about the military records for Scotland.
All right. Well, let me pull up my screen here, and we'll catch everybody up that may be new to these Scotland study group sessions. They're all archived. So if you've missed the old ones, they're here on Dear Myrtle's YouTube channel. But of course, it's much better to be watching this all in the Dear Myrtle community on Google+. That's where all the links are mentioned. And if you were to click and watch, for instance, this first video, a little advertisement. 1 second. Boy, that's noisy. Let me pause it. Oh my gosh, that was noisy.
You can skip the ad, I think.
Yeah, you can skip the ads. Anyway, here, if you are just watching this from the outside and haven't joined Dear Myrtle's genealogy community, on any of our videos, you will find this bit.ly link that will take you to Dear Myrtle's genealogy community. It's not about numbers for me, Russ, it's about conversation, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We've got folks in the community, and Cousin Russ does his part of weaving the comments from the community into our discussion. Now on the screen is a Google sheet, which is sort of like an Excel worksheet, where we have been aggregating links that go along with what Family Search Wiki is suggesting we do if we need to find something about our ancestor. Here's our first category, but these are not clickable on this table. In this table, they are clickable. And each week we've been aggregating the links that people have been mentioning, whether from the community or from our illustrious panel members. And we've got some pretty cool panel members. And Cousin Russ, every week people need to download this. Why? Can you explain it?
Sure. We always add new stuff or move stuff around to make it more usable for the people using the sheet. So it's good to every once in a while download it. Even we like the beginning genealogist spreadsheet that we created.
Yes.
I add stuff almost weekly, so it's good to go back and revisit it and to download it and do what you want to for yourself.
Yes. There's also a real handy dandy research log, and I recommend that you keep a research log. I tend to do it on an Excel worksheet that's in my Dropbox folder, and I have different tabs for different surnames, or I have several Excel worksheets depending on the goal in mind. It might be to determine do these people even belong on the Scottish side of my family tree. When you go to File, you can click Download As and find something that's useful to use. I happen to do Excel. Okay, so let's talk about who's on the panel today with us. Kind of interesting. We've got Claire, of course. We have our Billy Wallace, who is in Glasgow. We have John Laws, who's not in Edinburgh, Scotland. We always like to joke about that. Ed has joined us again. And Ed, as I recall, you had Scottish research, and you've been looking to our Hangouts to find out about obscure record groups. Have we been ringing some of those bells for you lately, I hope?
Yes, I've got a lot more research to do. I think the dark winter months are going to be providing ample time to actually look at everything I've been collecting over the summer.
Okay, that's very
Yeah.
good. And I do think, Ed, that it's been really good that Claire has been taking every single link that either comes up extemporaneously during our hangouts, or that she has planned in advance, and she pulls them into that spreadsheet. So you've got it.
Yeah,
And you
thank
can
you.
update it each week. And then we have Audrey Collins, my quilting friend, as you can tell from her patchwork quilted October. I think it's okay to do pumpkins in September, don't you?
Well, it's only a day to go anyway.
Yes. Anyway, Audrey's here on her day off of all things, but she works at the National Archives. That's not the one in Washington, D.C., those of us who are so U.S.-centric. It's the one in London. And so do you take a train into work every day? I don't know, Audrey.
I'm afraid I drive. I carefully bought my house because it had good public transport links to where I worked. And I didn't anticipate my place of work was going to get moved.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you don't think an entire archive is going to be
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't
So,
actually pick it up and move it, but my place of work is now Kew instead of central London. So
yes, that's true.
I drive, but tomorrow I'm going on the train because I am working, but I'm going into central London for some media training.
Ah, good. All right, so learn about it. Sounds good.
I
Well,
have an
and
interesting tidbit before we
go
start the
for
work.
it. Go for it, Russ.
We have posted 137 links for this study group.
Oh, wow, that's phenomenal. Phenomenal. All right, so the reason we are so excited that Audrey's here, although she's at Kew, and you will find out today that some of the military records we want to look at for Scotland are in the National Archives. But Audrey was actually born in Scotland, so she's an expat, so to speak. Do you call them expats when it's part of the...
Oh yes, if we're trying to make a point.
Okay.
I said once that I'm a Scot, but I've been doing missionary work in England for the last 50-something years. And an English friend said, "Well, you didn't make many converts." I said, "No, but I interbred with the locals and improved the bloodline a bit."
Yeah, that sounds very, very interesting. So, Claire, you want us to talk about something about British soldiers up to 1707. What happened between 1603 and 1707?
Well, that's when the Scotland records will be in Scotland, but after that, they're in England, and people need to understand that. And there's lots of reasons for that, but mainly because England,
Yes.
Scotland became part of the England, and they served under England rule, and so
Okay.
the records are going to be mostly from the National Archives, and we have a lot of them that are available online. We'll talk about those, but I need people to understand that from that point forward, we'll be concentrating on, it may seem like we're going to be working just with England, but really we're looking at Scottish records in England, and so that's the way we have to look at that.
All right, that sounds marvelous. Okay,
and it's well explained there. It's well explained there.
All right, so Cousin Russ has shared the link with you all, I'm sure, the National Records of Scotland, to this military records page. So what was pivotal in 1707 was, get me up to speed on this history. What happened in 1707?
Well, I believe England took over there, and I believe Audrey could fill us in on that one very easily.
Yeah, okay. You want to unmute yourself, Audrey?
Yeah, hang on. Yes, I was playing around on another page trying to find another link. But
Yes.
I was listening. Right.
Yes.
1707 was the Act of Union.
Right.
The Union of the Crowns, which was when James the Sixth of Scotland also became James the First of England. But for about a century, whoever was monarch of England was also monarch of Scotland, but they were still two separate kingdoms. It was 1707 was the Act of Union when the Scottish Parliament agreed to dissolve itself, and it then became the United Kingdom.
Okay.
And the there's a whole Irish dimension as well, which just makes it even more wonderful and complicated. But the main point is that from 1707, it's the United Kingdom, and
Okay.
although you still have England and Scotland, in terms of government and administration, an awful lot of things, anything that's British-wide, is going to be in England. They're not English records, but you can't unravel the army and pick all the Scots and the Irish out of it,
Okay.
because so that's why so many of the records are in my my new home.
In your new home in Kew. Now, wasn't it just last year that it came to a vote again about should Scotland separate again from England? But
Oh
it
yes,
failed?
yes, it was a close run thing, and what we say is that the independence campaign, they lost the election, but they won the campaign, and the Scottish nationalists. It's fascinating. Billy's probably would have a lot more to say on this
All right, well,
if we can hear him. But
let me ask one other question here. Maybe Billy can come in on this. When I can't imagine the United States Congress deciding to dissolve themselves. There had to be reasons why Scotland's Parliament decided to dissolve itself. Was it because most of the people in Parliament were part of those English who had come to settle up there? Or what happened that they decided it was advantageous to do this? Billy? I can't hear you, darn it.
All right. If
Okay,
we can't
Audrey.
still, Billy, it's not really my particular area of expertise, but
Okay.
it's something that people still argue about.
Okay,
Is
all
that,
right.
just how voluntary was it, and was
Okay, so my question wasn't off base.
Oh no, it's a long argument that's still going on.
Right, and I agree, it's still going on. I mean, there
Yeah.
were several attempts over the centuries for English attempts to take over the Scotland by military force, but eventually they had this Act of Union in 1707. And if you were to Google those things, there's lots of talk about it on both sides of the thing.
All right, the only reason that I like to ask you all these questions is that I've come to love and trust you all over the years. And so you could have varied opinions, but I also know you to be reasonable people who try their best to be objective when talking about something, except grandchildren or nephews, because of course my grandchildren are way better than yours.
A topic for definite debate.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. I have no grandchildren. You
that nephew that you bought the astronauts outfit.
Oh yes,
for.
I have two utterly adorable nephews.
Yeah, so we get that. All right, so military records. So I'm thinking, William Wallace and Robert the Bruce and all of this sort of thing, wearing of the kilts. I'm also somewhat aware of what happened during World War II. Get me up to speed with what I need to know about the actual records that have survived.
Okay,
Claire?
Let's go to that one that Billy shared with us, the Scotland prisoners. So we're hitting right before 1707. And
Okay.
if Billy can take that if his mic is working and stuff.
All right.
And that would be the prisoners.
Okay, Billy, your mic is not working again. So try this. Follow the screen prompts that I can ask Cousin Russ to give you about going up, move your mouse to the top and be sure that your headset is selected under settings for your microphone and your earphone. And then the second thing to do is to mute your video to give as much bandwidth because it's really important. So this is actually a blog. There are these various battles of Dunbar that I've heard of, and that the losing side had to, they were transported to the Americas. Yeah, frustrating here.
Can you share your screen?
Yeah, I will do that. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We're going to be, maybe we should give him a cell phone and he can call in. I don't know. So talk to me more about this, Claire.
I can't see what okay, there you are. Apparently this is a blog that talks about the battles of Dunbar and Worcester in 1650 and 1651. And as you
Yeah.
scroll down, you notice that right there with the black bar, just above it there, it goes in and it tells you the Battle of Dunbar, where it took place,
Yes.
and each one, and it brings in that the number of Scottish prisoners that were taken, and how they were indentured into hard labor,
Yes.
and then each one of the different areas. And so it goes on that this was the third English Civil War fought between 1641 and 1649 and 51.
Well, and this is where we get the Cromwellian influence. Yes.
Correct. And so
Okay.
if you look down to the third or fourth part, it says the weblog site is an effort to bring together the known facts of the prisoners, which is what we want to learn. We want to know what happened to those prisoners. Who are the prisoners? What were their names? Who survived? Who married? Who brought families? And so that's what I believe this blog is about. And
It
I'm not
really
sure
helps.
if you click on the battles and stuff, I'm not sure if those will take us to list of prisoners, because this is Billy's site. But I
Yes.
think it will. He must have more information that he
Goes to
could share with us on
Wikipedia,
that.
right?
Yes, takes us to Wikipedia so that we understand more. That poor Billy has tried to come in and out several times. We need to say our prayers and use a little super glue next time he comes in that door. Okay, so I think that this helps us understand something about what's happening on Scottish soil and how there could be um, migrations out of Scotland, for instance, in the Massachusetts Bay Colony.
Right.
And that explains why suddenly we're seeing people with Scottish names, Scottish heritage showing up there. So it's a result of that. I often wonder too about the Civil War, not the Civil, yeah, the English Civil War, because I have a Edith Cromwell who was married to Christopher Gist, the first Christopher Gist, who bought property in 1679 along the I can't remember if it's the Patuxent River or the Patapsco River up in Maryland. And yeah, okay.
So
Here's
look at just the very, very top of that, where the black bar is.
yeah.
Just go up just a minute. Notice that all the different categories that it brings in. The different battles. It also says not on list, but believed to be Scottish prisoners of war, and
Yes.
online. So there's enough there, I think, to help an individual whose family was in Scotland at that point in time.
I think it's interesting that there's a DNA study at Family Tree DNA. So, and I think that DNA is really impacting our genealogical research. Good. Okay. Thank
Now
you, Billy.
the next one that I sent to you, the second site I sent to you was the one right before this one is
Okay, let me go get that.
That's from the National. Let's see, where is it? I
Let
sent
me
you
pull
two.
the second link, dear. Just a second.
It was the very first link I sent.
Okay, I'll go get it again. It was me.
And that was on Scotland's people.
Okay,
And
let's
that
see.
would take us to the next one. Let me send it again.
There it is. I got it.
All right. So now they talk about their records. You want to bring that in a little bit more there.
Yeah.
And because they're of the actual records that are available through Audrey's website and others, Find My Past, etc., they have chosen instead to create and give us some links.
All right.
And so now that would actually impact. Notice that first one is the Research Guide Military Records, which is what Audrey has actually given us.
Yes. Okay.
And so let's go to. We want to make people to understand that the records are not at the Scotland peoples.
All right. So this is a research guide from the National Archives. Audrey, you want to unmute your mic and let's see what we can do here?
Okay, right. Yeah, I filtered it down to 97. We actually have over 200 guides on family history topics. And if you look at the filter on the left, I've just filtered it down to things to do with Army and Militia, Navy, Merchant Navy, Air Forces, and so on. And these are all individual guides. If it's after 1707, your ancestor is still going to be I'm still Scottish, but In terms of military and merchant navy records, the records are Britain-wide, so you have to think of them as British. You can like it or not like it.
Yes.
But as far as the records are concerned, you have to think of them as British. So they'll be in the British Army, the Royal Navy, the Royal Marines, etc., etc., etc. So all of these guides will have something in that's of value to somebody searching for Scottish ancestors who are in any of the armed services or the merchant navy.
I think I have a question here too. Um, was there segregation among the actual regiments or units or companies?
Sort of. You've got lots of Scottish regiments, you know, the Highland regiments and the Black Watch and all that. But don't assume that just because that everybody in a Scottish regiment is Scottish, or that Scots are only in Scottish regiments. They're everywhere. I've got an Irish ancestor who was in a Highland regiment
Yes.
and actually settled and lived the rest of his life in the lowlands of Scotland. My English father-in-law was in the Scots Guards, and I've got another Irish ancestor who was in the East Kent Regiment, and you can't get any further southeast than the East Kent Regiment. Next stop is France. So Scots and Irish can be in all sorts of regiments. I don't think you get so many English people in the Scottish regiments, but it can happen, particularly in the upper ranks as well as the career officers moved around.
Okay, now I want to ask you another question and probably bring John in here. Billy, you can try your mic at any point. Just try. So basically, this is my understanding, and then and I'm just telling you from a damn Yankees point of view. Okay. I understand that the British Empire went, had bound. It wasn't just bound to these isles. We had India, we had Africa, or I need to say, it extended to some of these areas of the world. So, in order to enforce their leadership role, they needed armies and navies, and so these troops were recruited from any. Did you have, like we had during the Vietnam War? Was there a draft system? Was there a compelling reason, like in Israel, everyone must serve in the military for a certain period of time? What was there a conscription? What was going on then? Billy, can you talk? No, we can't.
Right. You want me to take this one?
What do you want to do, Claire?
Okay, yeah, sure. I mean, Audrey can take that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can take it from the American point of view, but you can take it from the
all right, let's take it
from the England point of view is perfect.
All right,
or even the British point of view.
Okay, well, send it to British point of view.
Yeah. There was no conscription into the British Army until 1916.
Oh, because of World War I.
Yeah.
No.
Even though it was a huge army, there was never any element of compulsion. I mean, some people joining it wasn't as willing as others. There was the militia, which was different. But to join the regular army, it was a volunteer army.
All right, now let's make that distinction between the militia, which to me means local.
Yeah.
Is that what it is in England? Or I mean in Scotland?
Yeah, you had the militia theoretically the militia was only supposed to serve at home, and on the whole it did. But at various times, particularly like the Napoleonic Wars, every county was required to produce a certain number of men for the militia forces, and they were drawn by ballot. So it was almost conscription. In practice, it was quite easy to buy your way out of it. If you had money, you could find somebody who'd serve in your place.
Okay.
But the county had to produce X number of men.
All right, that makes sense. That's akin to what we saw when Abraham Lincoln said, okay, I need X number of soldiers, and so states, Indiana had to come up with so many, and Iowa, etc., and an entire county of people in Iowa were part of the unit, or was the unit that my ancestor, William Henry A. Phillips, belonged to. So that's, see how I'm trying to compare and contrast with what you're telling me with what I know happened here in the United States. Claire, you wanted to take something on the American point of view of this.
Well, as from the American point of view, of course, most of us, come from someplace else, and so we are concerned about. Okay, so we understand that these fall under the umbrella of the British,
Yes.
and so where do we find the records? And that's where I think
Yes.
we're at. And so by understanding the political background, which Audrey has so nicely explained for us, and
Yes.
also those other two websites, now we can go forward and try to find, okay, where are the records for these people that served that are our ancestors?
Okay, good. All right.
I sent you a link for the catalog that shows up for Ancestry on a tremendous amount of records available for this. Now, don't be fooled by the word British Army, because there's Scotland people in there, Ireland people in there, as Audrey was saying. It's just they have to accept the fact that this comes under the British umbrella.
Okay, so a lot of these titles are similar to the titles that with those helpful guides that Audrey had given to us earlier.
Right,
so
they match.
They sort of match, and I like it when that happens. Okay, so we're going to, so are we saying that we're now moving away from scotlandspeople.gov.uk and we're going to be using Ancestry more when it comes to military records for Scottish?
Right. I pointed out that Scotland's People did provide a bunch of links, and they don't have the military.
Okay.
It's other places that have the military.
Okay.
So you have Ancestry, you have Find My Past, you have a lot of local groups that have put records up, and we'll talk about them. But but we'll start with the biggest one, which was Ancestry.
Okay.
Now these British World War I service records.
Yes.
Type a name in and see what you get. I mean, if you're welcome to do that.
All right.
And so you'll see some of the actual records that
John,
have been done.
Was your father he was in the Air Force in World War II, right, John?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so we'll do that in a minute. But
I was just adding that don't forget the Navy.
Don't forget the Navy.
No, we don't. We do have Navy links too.
And a point there is when you were saying about militias, the Navy, they got their people that they needed by the press gang.
What is a press gang?
What's it sound like?
They pushed him into it.
Right.
That's it. Yeah.
Pushed him on the head and dragged him off.
Okay. And Hillary.
Can I just say something? Can I just say something about the press gangs? That yes, I mean it's just they certainly did lurk around pubs and they would nab people for crewing ship, but they wouldn't just drag anybody that had the right number of arms and legs. If you're going to serve on a ship with somebody, you actually want somebody that's going to be of some use on that ship. So although they must have made some terribly wrong mistakes, but on the whole, the people they would go for would be people that they knew were, had some sort of skill and knew that the pointy end was the front, that sort of thing. So
okay.
So
it's not the boat.
So it's not quite as random as it sometimes makes good stories, but you still have to be careful.
Okay, let's look and see what's coming from the community. Cousin Russ?
Hillary says servants may have served in the militia instead of their master.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting.
Well, that's the same thing that happened here during our civil wars.
Oh yeah, yes. All right, so I did just a search in deference to John Laws. I just typed in the surname Laws. That's the only criteria. And there's some interesting things to note on this hit list at Ancestry. One of them is, what does this little icon mean? A little pencil mark. It means somebody's annotated the index. This was we can actually go in and view the record. Let's go view one. All right, so regiment name, Royal Artillery with question marks. Oh, Ancestry is getting very interesting in there. and
You
what
could,
they allow in their indexing. Let's
right.
look at this document here.
There are people there from Scotland. You could have probably found one, but I
Yeah.
have it, and I do have one I can share that is just like this. But
All right, go ahead.
this is fine. This is fine. Go ahead, continue.
All right, so we have this is a short service, 7 years with colors and 5 years with the reserve. So is 7 years with colors active duty?
Yeah, that's active duty.
Oh, we have your voice. Okay.
Oh.
And then 5 years in the reserve. Okay. And so he's telling you a lot about what was your trade beforehand, how old were you, what was your parish and county, different little things. Have you ever served before? He was a driver in the Royal Artillery, and I don't. Okay, and
I'll take a look at my database and compare.
Okay, I may have found a new one for you. Okay, Claire, when you're ready to share your screen, I'd like to see your example
Yeah,
as well.
I'm going to try to figure out what I did here, not to share it. Oh, there it is. Okay, so to show that this is also just for not just for the British, which is one you brought up.
Okay.
This is one from William Banks, and it says he's from Edinburgh. And
yours is easy to read. Edinburgh,
right,
on a certain road. That would be interesting.
Now notice the word attestation.
Yeah.
That's the same thing as enlistment. So that's their word for that.
Yeah.
And so this person here is from Scotland amongst the British records.
Don't get Berg and Borough mixed up.
Oh, did I make a mistake?
No, it's not a mistake because the two things do happen. Some names do come up as Berg, but some don't.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, John.
So they make this attestation at the point of enlisting in the military.
Right, so this is their enlistment thing. What's your name, your address?
Yes.
And see, even though he is in Edinburgh, he does consider himself the British subject, as it says there.
Okay, all right.
And so that's why we want you to understand that even though, like I said, there are a lot of Scotland records in here for the individuals, and they just need to understand that. And so this was in he took the oath the 20th of January 1915.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just point out something interesting on that one, Claire? That at the very, very top, it wasn't just the signing on for 7 years thing. You see, it was for the duration of the war, which you get, which is what you get in the First World War. Sometimes you just get the ordinary one that somebody's signing up. I think it depends what paper they had to hand. They had to open a whole new stationery office to provide all the extra paper it took to run the war. It opened in 1916 because the war doesn't just run on bullets and men. It runs on paper as well. And that was one of the new forms that was produced for the First World War.
I'd like to compliment Ancestry. We've been picking on them lately, but I like to compliment them because in my example, which happened to be British, in English, I need to make that distinction, an Englishman, not only did we view the actual record, his attestation record, but they also have given us a packet cover, like the title page of the collection.
That was on the microfilm.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, those records is one of the very, very few things where I can't go and look at the originals. Nobody can. We've never had them as originals because they were in such a bad state, and about 2/3 of them were destroyed completely.
Yeah.
And the ones that survived a fire in the Second World War,
yeah.
A lot of them were water damaged. So we've never ever had them as original documents. We only ever had them as film.
Wow.
So what you see is, that's the best you're going to get. With some other records, we can, in extremis, get an original up to solve a query, or if there's an indistinct image. With those First World War service records for the Army, no, can't be done.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. Okay, Claire, where are we going next?
Okay, so the next thing is the Navy Medal and Awards rolls, and I just sent you that link.
Okay.
It's also part of Ancestry.
Okay.
And so I suppose you could stick with the name laws and see how we go.
All right, but now I'm going to try to change my search criteria.
All right.
Because I've got laws as an exact name. But do I want to put Scotland? or do it as a keyword to try to
See
to
if you
narrow it down?
see if you can do that. That might
All
make,
right.
I don't know if it makes sense.
All
Let's
right. So
see how
we'll
we
say.
go.
All right. So we'll see what we've got. All right.
So these are different records that they would give for their service in the war. And see, notice there's some ships there. The different ships that are there.
Yes.
And it tells you the different war also that they served in.
Syria and China. By the way, just today, Russia has been bombing non-ISIS targets in Syria. Just that's one of the value-added services of attending one of our hangouts. You get current events as well as historical perspective. Crimean War, and these look like they're all ships because, of course, it's naval medal and awards rolls. So let's look at one of them. Let's just
look at one of them, and then the other one the second one will be the military awards.
Okay.
So let's take a look at them and see what we have.
All right, and there is, I always recommend, as Cousin Russ does, that we read all about this description of the database, click Learn More, find out about why this was created.
Right, and it's important to, as John mentioned, to not forget the Navy, which is why we're bringing some of this in, because lots of times people tend to think about just the military on the ground, but they forget that there's a Navy that's also there to back them up.
Okay.
The thing with the Navy was that the sea was the main highway.
Oh, yes.
Because the roads were so abysmal. And
right,
if you wanted to get a mass of men to any place in the world, send out a gunboat.
Okay. All right. So we say the column headings are names, quality, names and quality. So this is 2 columns.
Yep. And what and the award, and I think we have the JAS would be probably for James, the JNO would be for John.
Yeah.
And going on down, but at least it puts that person in that particular location at that time and place.
Okay. And some little notations, etc.
Right. I believe the explanation is within that first section that you went in, where it says to learn more and how you can read these records.
All right. So I'm going to hit the back button. And, of course, we use this type of information to begin to craft a citation. Here's the part where we learn more about the collection itself. I click Learn More.
Right, and then it tells you about about the medals down the bottom. See?
So so they were submitted by ship, regiment, or unit, and they regard campaigns or battles, good conduct, and gallantry. So there are 3 categories of these awards. Okay.
Right. Okay, then the second link I sent you was for the military medals.
Okay.
See that one there?
Okay.
Something you might also take into account is that the medals that were issued to officers were different than the medals issued to men.
To the regular folks.
Not to say, yeah, to the regular folks. I wasn't going to imply that officers weren't men.
Okay. All right. Just the regular infantrymen, or yes. Okay.
Listed versus officers.
That's
the phrase. Okay.
So this one does have a browse section where you can actually choose a region where they served. Whereas, I mean, either way, you still get to that same thing. So you notice the different places that they did serve, so that you're prepared for the area. So you wouldn't want to go search in Africa if you know your families, if you know they served in another area.
Okay. All right. So I don't know. Oh, this is interesting. Flying Tigers. I know about those during World War II. Okay.
That's right. Flying Tigers. Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to say Scotland and see what we find. Search. Okay, Napoleonic Wars, let's go look.
Okay, so notice that there's the different wars, the Battle of Waterloo, all the different wars, and again, you're going to find lists of different awards that were given.
Okay, Machine Gun Corps, Battle of Waterloo. Let's bring up Harry Law's record. Oh man, it's just a tiny little item. Let's go look at it. So this is like the transcription of it, where you can save it to someone in your tree or in your shoebox. Oh, now the record has come in. So let's go look at Harry Law's. His service location was Belgium. Okay. All right. So there's several on a page.
Yep.
And let me go to the top. Oh, I see. There it is. It's cut off.
Surely there's a mistake there.
Why?
Well, Machine Gun Corps wasn't in the date that it said. Machine guns were World War Two.
Well, you had the Gatling guns in the Civil War, but that was the mid 1800s. I don't know why they I wonder what MG machine gun.
I just said so, but when it said that, the date didn't fit. You know, if you go back a page.
Yeah, but look at this. These are dealing with these might have been given. This is Machine Gun Corps at the top.
See, that's 19. At the end, it says 19. It says 20. That's 1920, which is First World War.
And
if
the date
of the page before you look at, if you go back a page.
Yes.
Now
it said the service date was 1815.
No, that's wrong. It's 1915.
All right, so we have we
have a transcription error.
Report issue.
Where is report issue?
Right under the image.
Send for the firing squad, I say.
Yeah, you'd be better to make sure that I've got a note of that, because I can get that back to the horse's mouth, as it were.
All right, let me give you the link.
Looks like a major problem there, that because First World War stuff shouldn't be in that collection anyway.
No,
that's non-First World War. That's before and after.
However, look at the years. It says 1793 to 1949.
Yeah, but that series, there's a separate W100, which is the series that comes from. Yeah. That's a series for military medals and awards, except for the First World War. So you'll get things from 1920 onwards, but anything up to about 1919, that's in a completely separate series, which is.
It gives
so
it
you're
away.
Talking about this part here where it says what the series is at the National Archives in Kew. All right, so Audrey,
I will look into that.
All right, I'm going to
something very, very wrong there. Yeah.
So stay tuned on Hangouts. You find out where the mistakes are.
Campaign service. Battle of Waterloo, which we know is 1815, but we know it was in Belgium, not Machine Gun Corps.
Definitely in Belgium, though. At least they've got that right.
They got that right,
Yeah.
Okay, so Audrey, here's what I've done for you. I've sent the link to this particular page, and so that you can work, and it's in our private chat within the community.
Right.
Wow, this is cool, Russ. We're going to be a cause in the matter of getting
this. Well, we always have a snag list of things, and really it's the community, whether it's this community or the people who use Ancestry or Find My Past and come into the National Archives.
Yeah.
They're the people, the hundreds of thousands of pairs of eyes that spot things. And if you spot something that's wrong, you can report it straight to Ancestry. But if it's one of our records that they've done under license, we might have a bit more clout with them. It still won't get done instantly because they have got lots and lots of things to do. But if there's an issue, we can look into it.
All right, John, you wanted to say something? I guess not. Okay.
Billy put a link in a few minutes ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say something. It might be that's the regiment was amalgamated into another regiment, and the title on the transcription is the result of the amalgamation. So you'd have to trace the history of the regiment from Waterloo through.
Yes. It's just that the index hit list looks completely wrong.
Yeah, there's definitely
figure out what it is.
Somebody got their wires crossed somewhere, so I will report back.
All right, thank you. This is pretty exciting, Russ, that we're able to help this. So I know John gave us a link. I have to go look for it, but in the meantime, what is this all about, Claire?
Okay, so this one here came from Billy. This is crew list and agreements
okay.
from the Merchant Navy for 1915. If you scroll down on that website, Billy's microphone is working, so I think
Go for it, Billy.
Take this one.
Hi. This is a new database that's come online specifically for the Merchant Navy, which supported the Royal Navy. You could find merchant seamen occasionally on Royal Navy ships. So if you're unsure whether it's Royal Navy or Merchant Navy, you can check both the databases.
Okay.
But if the Merchant Navy also had cards with serial numbers on them like the Army, so you can trace them through that as well. If you try William John Wallace, he might show up.
Okay, let's see. I will go back. I already clicked.
All right,
William
no problem.
John.
John, yeah.
Okay. Search. And yes, it's insecure. I don't care. I'm not giving my credit card. So we've got John. So there's several different hits, but not William. There's a ship named the Wallace. All right, shall we just pick one and look at it?
Yeah, just pick one.
All right. So here we go. All right. So this record is held by the National Maritime Museum. And this is how you contact them. So we don't have the digitized image, but we do have transcription of who he was. He was a skipper of the ship. He was born in 1879 in Orkney. We got a Scottishman.
We got a Scottish guy, yeah.
Wow, that's a miracle. Okay, and that's John Thompson, William Ward. So these are the people that are on that ship.
I'd say one thing.
Yes?
If he's an Orkney man, he'd deny he was a Scotsman.
Oh, it's like the Texans here. They're in their own category. Okay, 1915. So this is to remind us it's not available at Kew. It's at the National Maritime Museum. And here's oh my gosh. So you get the department and the subcategories so that you understand this. If I wanted to get access to this actual record, what would I do? Would I print this page, copy and paste this page? Let's see what contact details tells us.
Actually, there's a better thing than that. Can I just explain something about this project? It's been recently completed, and it's very unusual. It was a collaborative project done between ourselves at the National Archives and the National Maritime Museum. Now, Merchant Navy is very difficult to research because there's no single database of merchant seamen. There's an attempt at registration for about 20 years between about the 1830s and 1850s.
Yes.
And then from the First World War, tail end of the First World War onwards, you get a half-decent registration. The period in between, it's quite difficult, and your main resource, if you can find it, is crew lists. And the crew lists, there were so many of them that nobody could take the whole lot. We have about a 10% sample of all the crew lists.
At the National Archives, yeah.
The National Maritime Museum have got about 10%. Various local archives, people like Southampton and Liverpool that have got maritime traditions, have taken some relating to ships registered in their ports. And everything that was left over got shipped over to Newfoundland, to the Maritime University there. Now,
in Canada.
So
Whoa.
this project was it was for 1915 for a very particular reason, because for that year, all of the crew lists for that year, they are either in the Maritime Museum or they're with us at Kew.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a key time, just middle of the First World War. So we did an indexing project. I said I had nothing to do with it. I can take no credit. We had a lot of volunteers and staff working on it, and it's a single index to 2 collections. So if you search it, the chances are you'll find something. Most of them are actually at the Maritime Museum. So most of them it will say this is at the Maritime Museum. But if you go to the Maritime Museum's own website, they have digitized them. We haven't digitized ours. If you find one that's held at Kew, you can order a copy of it. You'll get a nice copy. But for the Maritime Museum ones, they're online and they're free.
Oh, okay. All right. So we need to look at that link. All right. I want to take a comment from the community. Audrey, they need to be paying you overtime because you are doing community outreach and education.
I do all right.
Yeah, I know they take care of you, but still, this is incredible information that we're receiving. Betty Lou has a question, and I think it's good to go over that.
Yeah, what is the difference between the Merchant Navy and the Royal Navy? I believe she means Merchant Marine Navy.
Yeah. So somebody on a TV program once described it absolutely beautifully. There's the Navy that fights and the Navy that delivers things.
And that's the same here.
So it's the same as in the US. And it does get very confusing because if men in the Merchant Navy, they'd find themselves in the Royal Naval Reserve, and they could find themselves actually accidentally in the Royal Navy. They could be on a Merchant Navy ship which was commandeered by the Royal Navy, which happened to an ancestor of mine. So, people did sometimes move between the 2 services. So it is confusing, but it's important to know the difference.
And they still fight.
All right, and I want to mention, I can relate to this. I'll come right to you, John. I can relate to this because my Uncle Jack, who's still not dead, despite family search, family tree, he was a merchant marine. He was an electrician. They keep all the little connections working for communications and other operations. And during World War II, he became part of the U.S. Navy because of his particular skill. And so that was a thing for me to get used to, because I thought you're either commercial enterprise, merchant marine type thing, or you're military. No, that crossed as the need arose. All right, John, you wanted to say something.
I was only going to ask, of course, the Caird, I can pronounce it right, Caird Library, that was at Bancroft Road, wasn't it, Audrey?
Can you spell it? Spell it.
I think it was CAIRD or something like that.
Yeah.
CAI.
That library was at Bancroft Road in Stepney before it went to the Maritime Museum, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll take your word for that, but it's definitely the Maritime Museum. I've only ever been there at the Maritime Museum.
I worked on it 150 years ago.
All right, that's what it says. Maritime Museum, the Caird Library.
Yeah, that's right.
It's in here's where now.
They were talking of tearing the building down, and the Tower Hamlets Library wanted to tear the building down, and it had this library in it. So I guess that's where it went.
Yeah. I noticed my dear American friend neatly sidestepping the need to try and pronounce the word Greenwich.
Greenwich.
So is that the actual library right here? It looks like I've put my man on the street there at Google with Google Earth, Google Street View.
That's certainly part of the Naval College.
Okay. All right, it might be across the street.
I've been in those buildings. The banqueting hall is fabulous. It's got painted walls with painted on pillars, and at the end wall, there are steps going up.
Yes.
Real steps, but they continue up the wall.
Oh, in trompe l'oeil. Yeah, in that to fake you out.
Fabulous.
It's very
Absolutely
interesting.
fabulous.
Okay.
All right, where are we now?
Can we slip in that last link I just sent?
Yes, we certainly may.
That is the Chelsea Pensioner Service Records. So if you look at this, this is where people got taken care of when they were injured and stuff like that.
So this is like a veterans hospital type thing.
Yep.
Okay, and they got pensions for Army service covering a long time period.
And still are, of course. It's still Chelsea pensioners are still retired Army service personnel,
Okay,
but not officers, only non-commissioned ranks. And
okay,
it's
the
where we
enlisted.
it's where we have the Chelsea Flower Show.
Yeah.
People know the Chelsea Flower Show. That's where it is.
But Chelsea pensioners, and I mean, in Britain, if you say Chelsea pensioner, people think of these elderly gentlemen in their red dress uniforms who live in Chelsea Hospital. But historically, Chelsea pensioners just mean any army pensioner at all, because Chelsea Hospital administered the pensions for the whole of the British Army. So the Chelsea pensioner records are full of people who couldn't find Chelsea on a map, let alone go there. And they were called Chelsea pensioners, which distinguished them from the Greenwich pensioners, which were the Navy pensioners. So they are the ones who live in Chelsea Hospital and still do. They are in pensioners, and the rest are called out pensioners.
I think you went too early because it starts at 1760 and you put 1756.
Oh,
back.
I see. Well, and the reason I did it was I thought, all right, I'll put 1780 for my search criteria.
I think you put your finger on it there, because there are a good many Greenwich pensioners that wouldn't know how to find their way to Greenwich either.
Oh dear, oh dear.
So there's a U Wallace from Ayrshire down there. So there are some Scotland ones, which is very helpful.
Let's go look at this and see what it's like. It takes us to Find My Past.
Yep. So
by clicking, we're leaving FamilySearch.org, and we're
right.
But when you use it at a family search center, a family history center, it can be different. Now, let's see if I can see the record. I may have to log in. Sorry, we couldn't find the page. All right, let's look at the catalog here while we're here, okay? And they have military and armed forces.
They have a lot of military records on Find My Past.
Yes, okay. So let's just look at the list.
Right.
So they have it categorized by the wars themselves.
Correct.
Okay, and I'm not sure that I can...
No, without logging in, you probably wouldn't be able to see it. But people needed to be aware that even though it says Family Search, it's going to take them to Find My Past. So they might want to start on Find My Past, which is the reason for bringing it up.
All right, well, I'm going to... we've got 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Oh, yes, there's a number of links. There's one that's really probably worth mentioning. That's
okay.
Pinterest really came to fruition on this one. I know that Tom.
Give me the link
right here, Tom.
Okay.
We can end with this one.
All right. History pin. First. Oh my heavens! Yes.
So if you click on the down arrow, you can go in and find a person, and it's click on that down arrow.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, look at all the pictures.
Yeah.
Go down, you'll see all of the different, these are people that have posted them to help us, a collection that was done. And I know Tom McKentry did something on Veterans Day. He started a military collection on Pinterest.
Yes.
And so the reason it's not as important as some of the other places, but it might be helpful to people to know that this is here.
Well, and it gives like historical context and visual perspective, which I think is very important. All right, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface on this topic.
No, there's a lot more links in the record collection, so they need to go there.
All right, well let me do this. Let's take some comments from the community. We're going to go over about 2 minutes, I think. What you got there, Russ?
Hillary says, I have Chelsea pensioners who were working.
Yeah, that's very common. When people left the army, they often came out of the army. They'd maybe served 20 years, but they were still perhaps only in their 40s, and they would then go on and have another 20 years of working life. You find a lot of them in garrison towns. I grew up in Chatham, or near Chatham, and you had lots and lots of men who'd come out of the army or the navy and then got jobs in the Royal Dockyard. So you'll often see people who are Chelsea pensioners and something else as well.
All right.
Another thing about the pensions is, in the case of the First World War veterans, a lot of them didn't get their pensions issued until 1950.
Oh my, yes.
So they were actually forced to work because they had no army pension or navy pension.
And this would be for people that had been in the military for 20 years. So
Yeah,
they
or
should have,
longer.
yeah, yeah. Here we would have a pension, and people would, like Mr. Mert, take on another career and maybe even have a second pension. All right, just to let you all know what Claire does in her spare time. Aside from doing tech support for a wonderful program called Ancestral Quest, she also blogs. This is her community, Budding Genealogists. And she was most recently working on census records. Just want to show you all in the Dear Myrtle community. We'll go there. Apparently, I have a lot of work to be doing. Under events, we have two things coming up. One of them's already on events, and that is Wacky Wednesday this evening, where we will be discussing fraternal organizations worldwide. Also, Cousin Russ and I have just decided we're going to do a Wacky Wednesday on Friday. This coming Friday during the same time period, where we're going to talk about where to go to find help when you are having a problem with a website or a problem with genealogy software or any kind of software for that matter, a website in question, there's almost always help. So that's going to be added shortly. So we are going to have not only Wacky Wednesday on Wednesday, where a very distant cousin will be interviewing Jen Baldwin. Jen Baldwin's the new North American digital imaging manager. Acquisition manager. Yes, thank you. I had to get that out. But she loves her thing is to study fraternal organizations. But I will be here on Friday for Wacky Wednesday on Friday to discuss where to turn for help. Oh, wow. What an interesting discussion we've had. Comparing and contrasting. Now, is next week our last week? Tell me about that.
Unfortunately, it is our last week for Scotland. We're doing probate records.
Yes.
And we will close with that. And if there's anything that the community would like us to mention besides that, they need to let us know way ahead of time. But seriously, it's a wrap-up of the Scotland's record series. Has been a fabulous study of the Scotland records.
You know, we could just spend 10 weeks on military records.
Oh yeah, we barely touched the surface. There's roll of honor rolls. There's so much out there. Please have them look at the family search record group that we created for them.
Yeah, I love having the Family Search Wiki to work off of, plus our Google Docs. You know, I had a conversation with somebody just last evening by Facebook messaging about our study groups, and the person's opinion was that we have no syllabus, we have no handouts. Well, we're creating our own by collaborating, by finding these links. Billy adds them, John adds them. All of us have been adding to our Google Sheet, and we follow along with the Family Search Wiki. So interesting work. Thank you so much, panel. And thank you to the members of the community for participating. We've had a steady number of people watching on the outside, and as usual, Cousin Russ, I want to thank you. I don't mean to be saying as usual to take you for granted, but you're doing a lot of work behind the scenes here, bringing those comments in, and I want you to know I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Anyway, there's nothing left to say, but I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy. Happy family tree climbing, everybody. That's a wrap. Bye.